soul and strength, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I am confident that Beth Judy sought to live her life like this all of her days. She instilled the love of God and to love one another into her children and her grandchildren. And some of her other favorite quotes, there's one that I think is really powerful that I want to share with you, and it says this: I want to know God so completely that when people see me, they see you in me. I want to read that one more time. I want to know God so completely that when people see me, they see you in me. That this truth is reflected in the wonderful way that Beth lived her life, in the people that she touched along the way. I know that when people would see Beth Judy, they would see Christ being reflected in the life that she led. It is my prayer that you will remember Beth Judy, that you will celebrate her life, that you remember the blessings, the memories, the special moments that you shared in together. May they be a blessing to you in the coming days. And we are confident that for all of us who believe, it is not goodbye. See you later. Amen. So now I'd like to invite Reverend Chief to come.
Thank you, Pastor. You sure covered a lot of stuff there. But I guess I'm going to be a little more on the personal side in the sense that I met Beth and Steve about 20 years ago when I came to Ridgely to pastor. She was an active part in the ministry of the church. She had been a part of the church since birth. In fact, they both were. She and Steve had both been there as children in Sunday school, and children's camps, and youth camps, and adult activities. But there came a day when they decided that they were going to get married, and she became a homemaker. Somebody told me once time that women become a housewife. Well, I find that most women I know, they become homemakers as soon as they get married. And then they begin to take care of the situations, what they must face in the days to come. Well, together they grew and sold produce. Eventually, 4 boys came along, and to them, she, of course, was mom. And to her grandchildren, which I noticed, they called her Mom. And so also, she was a big part of all of their lives, all the knowledge that I had, and of course, what others had told me. As her obituary stated, her primary occupation was her family. But along with that, she worked for 25 years in the Woodbridge School District, teaching her kids at home and doing what she could to expand them in the society that they were going to be living in. She was very gentle. She was loving. She was kind to know and to be around. And she lived her life as she served her loving Savior. She has gone from us now, but her faith in Jesus Christ has now let her understand something that none of us has known yet. And that is that the angels do rejoice at the death of a saint. On Saturday night, I was watching a program called Precious Memories on television. And these words of the song got me thinking about Beth. And it caused me to do quite a bit of thinking at that moment. And I've adjusted it just a little, but I want to share it with you. I'm thinking of a friend who I used to know, who lived and suffered in this world below. But they're gone off to heaven. But I want to know, what are they doing in heaven today? What are they doing in heaven today, where sin and sorrow have all gone away? And there's some whose bodies were full of disease. Physicians and doctors couldn't give them much ease. But they suffered till death brought a final release, and wonder what Beth is doing in heaven today. And may she continue to rejoice with her dad and with her loved ones within there until we all meet her again. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. So now at this time is an opportunity for those that have loved, known Beth, to be able to share. Whether they be fond stories, special memories, special moments shared together. So now I'd like to invite at this time, that's Brother Daryl and several other family members who are going to share.
Yes, I'm one of Beth's many brothers, Daryl, and this is my wife, Lucia, and Angie, and Chessie, Angelica, and Francesca. We all knew Beth as the ultimate, whether sister, mother, aunt, grandmother, friend, whatever. And the Bible has a great verse that chapter that seems to be written all about our sister. It's called The Good Wife, Proverbs 31. So just apply this to Beth and see if she lived up to God's ideals for the perfect wife. I think you'll all agree. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we all agree. It is hard to find a good wife because she is worth more than rubies. Her husband trusts her completely. With her, he has everything he needs. She does him good and not harm for as long as she lives. She looks for wool and flax and likes to work with her hands. She is like a trader's ship, bringing food from far away. She gets up while it is still dark and prepares food for her family and feeds her servant girls.
She inspects a field and buys it. With money she earns, she plants a vineyard. She does her work with energy, and her arms are strong. She knows that what she makes is good. Her lamp burns late into the night. She makes thread with her hands and weaves her own cloth. She welcomes the poor and helps the needy. She does not worry about her family when it snows, because they all have fine clothes to keep them warm. She makes coverings for herself. She is strong and is respected by the people. She looks forward to the future with joy. She speaks wise words and teaches others to be kind.
And she watches over her family and never wastes her time. Her children speak well of her. Her husband also praises her, saying, "There are many fine women, but you are better than all of them. Charm can fool you, beauty can trick you, but a woman who respects the Lord should be praised. Give her the reward she has earned. She should be praised in public for what she has done." We love you, Beth.
Do we have an amen on that?
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much.
I can't get into a whole lot of words up here, but I just want to mention that we've had one perfect person walk this earth for us. This was a close second.
It seemed really modern of me to be holding my phone with my notes, but that's because I forgot my paper in the car. It's much more realistic. I wrote this when we found out that they had done all that they could do for our mom. I just want to say thank you for raising your boys to be loving, smart, kind, hardworking, for helping to raise and teach your grandchildren, and challenging them to be curious, active, kind, and happy. For always putting others first, always. For modeling what it means to serve, lead, teach, and love. For opening your heart to us daughters-in-law as if we were your own. For taking notes during phone calls so you could remember small details and stay interested and connected to each and every one of our lives.
for still writing in cursive, for writing in cursive in those thank you cards and birthday cards, for being pen pals with your grandchildren because it means the world to them to get real man. For saying yes this past year, even when it wasn't the popular thing to do or the easy thing to do, to see your grandkids play sports or share experience with your boys. Thank you for setting the bar high for all of us. It will be an honor to carry you forward with us in all the good things. We will miss you more than you want us to, and more than you will know.
Thank you. Yes.
I wasn't sure if I was going to come up here. I'm still not sure. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to go out that door. Joanne, you inspired me. That was amazing. I don't know if you talked with her about that song, but it's one I haven't heard in a long time, but I remember being about that tall, standing behind her beside her in church, and her belting it out. Never had the talent, but she certainly loved the song. I wrote something up. I had included humor and all that kind of stuff. Like you move a little bit, but I'm not going to pull that off. So, I had a pet peeve with Mom, and I never got. Well, she heard about it several times from me, but I never got tapped out with it. She'd be in the height of joy, playing a football game or in the middle of a good meal, and just take a break for a minute and say, man, I wish so-and-so were here. I wish Grandma and Grandpa were here. I wish Jesse's family was here. Welcome to West Lawn for like the last 5 or 6 years. I wish Casey and Erica were here. They by far win the title on that, sorry guys. But if you guys have spent any time with Mom, I'm sure you guys have heard that before. And if you missed time with her, I'm sure your voice was, or your name was used in that before from her. And it always frustrated me when I was with her because I'd always petulantly respond, well, we're not enough for you? Come on. And I never understood it. I never understood how you can experience joy and still interject that bit of sorrow for missing someone and having them miss that experience. I never understood how you could be wholly present with somebody else when that was the mindset. But that was her mindset. She was always willing to self-sacrifice, thinking of others. I just never understood it. But I'm starting to. Because I don't think I'll ever be whole again. I don't know if we'll be whole again. I don't know if you can fill that void. It's a bitter, cruel irony that when I look at my kids, and the monuments they'll be building in their life in the next 5, 10, 20 years, it's all of those years and those beyond that I'm going to be the one saying, I wish Mom was here for this. She'll be missed.
Going over here, because I like how it stands to lean
I'm sure, seen the show, Everybody Loves Raymond, with the classic mother-in-law character of Marie, who was overbearing, judgmental, and intrusive in her son's marriage to his wife. I'm here to tell you right now that that dreaded mother-in-law image, so often portrayed, was not at all the woman who became the second mother to me. My name is Gina. I'm the wife of Jared, who is the third-born son to Steve and Beth Judy. When I first started hanging around this family about 18 years ago, I remember being surprised by two things. The first was the way they so quickly swept me in as one of them. The second was the intensity with which each of these four sons loved and respected their mother. Beth and I were similar in a few ways and different in many. We both love to read, absolutely hate making decisions, and both dearly love her son, Jared. As Mom swept me into her arms as one of her own over the years, I've had the privilege of learning many things from her. It took me years to grasp this, and Jared might tell you that I'm actually still refining this skill. But in watching her, I learned that being a good wife means that not every difference in opinion has to be voiced. And that choosing to be flexible doesn't mean you're weak. She also showed me that sometimes being a good mother means you have to put your children's energy to use with some good old-fashioned manual labor. Shortly after our family grew from 3 kids to 5, I remember calling Mom in absolute and utter exhaustion and tears. My 2 older boys, who were very close in age, were physically fighting incessantly, and I didn't know what to do. Luckily, having grown up in a family with 6 younger brothers, and having raised 4 sons, fighting boys was not new news to her. Whereas I had only grown up with 1 brother and 1 sister, and up until that particular point in time, I had 1 son and 2 daughters. So fighting, I didn't understand that this physical fighting between boys was actually a normal thing. After one particularly intense fight one day, I called Mom and expressed my frustration and asked her if there was anything I could do to foster a relationship between them. Or did I just have to resign myself to my boys beating each other up from here to eternity? In her steady wisdom, she suggested I give them a job to do outside in the heat. One that I didn't particularly care about, but that needed to be done, and that would require them to work together for a long time in order for it to be completed. Those boys, well, we did the swing set area for hours. They eventually stopped fighting with each other, and once they realized that every fight led to hours of work, they didn't see many fights anymore. This is possible that they just stopped bringing them to me. If you know them, you know that they're absolute best friends to this day. Another thing that I learned from Mom is something that many of you have likely been the recipient of, and that is that being a good friend means bringing them copious quantities of Christmas cookies every single year, even when you are literally lying on your desk. Mom was a meticulous note-taker. She had a notebook where she kept descriptions of the books she read, so she wouldn't unintentionally reread the same book. And whenever I was in need of a new book suggestion, I would pore over these lists and then head to the library, armed with an array of books to search for. Another one of the ways, this is my favorite, in which her note-taking came into play was through the intricately detailed baby books she kept for each of her sons. It is through these books, which are packed to the gills with information, where we learned that Jace received and wore his first 3-piece leader suit a few days before his first birthday. That Jesse called the petting zoo the tickling zoo. And when Jared was a toddler, he was scared of finding turtles in his bed at night. And this one's my favorite. The first words that were said when Josh was born were, "He's so fat and hairy." Sadly for my children, this is actually just something that I have not yet put into practice, but really admired her intensity with it. One of the many small yet mighty ways in which Mom cared for us, and likely did for you, was through food. One day while helping in the kitchen many years ago, I came across a list she had created of favorite foods and desserts for each of her sons and daughters-in-law, so that each time we visited, she could be sure to make her favorite meal and her favorite dessert. It was one of the countless ways in which she showed us that she paid attention, that our desires mattered to her, and that she cared for us, always. The last, and likely most important thing I learned from Mom was that showing God's love to others doesn't necessarily mean telling people about Jesus with your words. It's about letting his light shine from your eyes, like it did from hers. About letting his smile radiate from your smile, as it did from hers. And letting his soul touch that of the person directly in front of you, as Mom did to every person she met. There's a song we sing during worship at church sometimes, and one of the lyrics says, "I can see your heart in everything you save, and I can see your heart in everything you've made." Most of us continuously fight the battle of following the desires of our own hearts versus the desires of God's. I don't know how she did it. She had an amazing ability to follow his. We visited with Mom on Thursday of last week, and upon arriving home, our daughter Anna wrote her mom a letter in response to one that she had received just a few days prior. The last thing that Anna had written in her letter to her mom was to remember, love lasts forever. I can look in the eyes of her husband, her sons, and her grandbabies, and of the many, many, many people in this room who have been touched by the life of this woman that I've had the honor of calling my mother. And it's easy for us to remember that even though we no longer have the gift of her presence by our side, her love will last with us forever.
Amen.
I hate coming up here after crying, but my cousin wanted me to do this. I didn't prepare for this, because I wanted this to come from the heart. And my mom was a kind, generous, loving person. We will miss her dearly. I hate to know that I will never hear her voice, never hear her welcome from the kitchen, never know that she's going to be waiting for me by the front door. That's what she did every single time I visited. She'd run to the front door and say, "You're here, come in, come in." The last 3 times I went to her house, the first time she was doing what she always did. Second time, she was just laying on the couch, too weak to get up, but she still waved her arm, and she had that look in her eyes that she was so glad that I was here. The third time, she was laying on the bed, the hospital had hot, not moving. And I knew, instead for her to be like that, she needed to go. She needed that to happen, because if she hadn't, she would have had pain for a long time after that. And it just felt good knowing that she was where she needed to be. I will miss her. I will miss her with all my heart.
I too need that. Jared, when I first heard, you did good, buddy. Okay? Josh, I had that same thought. That same exact thought. When you knew there was one perfect person, I agree with you. She's right there. Before I actually start, what I'm going to say, I want you to know, Reverend Jim, I did not know what was in that person. I got a chance to ride by myself yesterday, and for those of you that know me, know I don't get that chance very often. But I truly believe hope I'm right, that God put this message in my heart. I also have to apologize to Beth. My printer is broken. And I had to write by hand. And I printed it. You people from school know what I'm talking about. I know Courtney is right. No, I'm not allowed to do that. So, anyway, aside from the fact, and I spent this morning doing this. I want you to know, you see the marks on there, this is the final copy, so you can only imagine what the rough draft looks like. Okay. Beth Judy, or B. Judy, as our school family called her. And before I go on, I want to say my condolences to the Judy family. The Callaway family. Lady, you raised one beautiful daughter, I can say that. Okay. Words to describe that. You know, it could be a very long list, and some people have mentioned things that could go on this list. Self-disciplined, teacher, professional, plus. Servant, and you all talked about her selflessness and everything. But I knew she was a servant because she would bring me watermelon and cantaloupe cut up. You know what I mean? I didn't have to cut up that watermelon. And she obviously was an expert in it. Card sender. I just marveled how she did all that. And if I had $1 for every time somebody at school said, I wish I could be like that. I wish I knew how she did it. I'd be a little wealthier, let's just say that. Not that I'm wealthy or anything. Okay, my name is Karen Sheets. I am her friend. I was her colleague. And truthfully, I yearn from the time I set foot in school to teach, to have the opportunity to teach alongside of her. And I did. I went to 4th grade. We were fellow sports moms around the same time. We were both stay-at-home moms to 4 children. The very big difference was there was no planting in my yard or anything like that, or farming, anything that required growing something. No, not me. My husband would call it death row when flowers came. We both are grandmothers. Now, boys, you come into this a little bit. My grandchildren started arriving before her grandchildren. She didn't like that very much. She had some stern words for her boys about that. Yeah. She told me repeatedly she couldn't wait to have her own grandchildren. Look at them. Needless to say, she was blessed. Absolutely nothing else gave her more joy than to be with them. Just as a little side note, she ended up with 11 grandchildren, and I only had 9, and I think she got a kick out of that a little bit. Then there's another phrase to describe Beth Judy. Mom, M-U-M, super gardener. Being a teacher is similar to being a gardener. I was doubly blessed because Beth was a teacher gardener to my daughter and my grandson. Now, Beth and I both entered teaching later in life. I guess you could say we were late bloomers. Probably because I could relate to one of my very favorite picture books. It was called Leo, the Late Bloomer. I don't know, I'm sure that Beth's grandchildren have heard that story. I'm just saying. I used to read the book aloud at open house. It took Leo, you see, who was a tiger, a while to read, write, and draw. I would tell the parents that just like babies don't talk or walk at the same exact time, students don't bloom all at the same time. I'd have a Judy mom on display for visual effects. In the end, Leo bloomed. I've got arrows. I hope I'm going to the right place. I would tell the parents that our job, like good gardeners, it was our job to provide the environment for blooming: soil, water, light, encouragement, involvement, assistance, etc. All right. Then, at her retirement dinner, I used, as the family knows, the book called Mrs. Spitzer's Garden, where Mrs. Spitzer was a teacher gardener. At the beginning, Mrs. Spitzer was given seed packets, known as her students. And throughout the year, Mrs. Spitzer tended her garden. Needless to say, I could never read the book without thinking of one Beth Judy. Can you imagine the number of fruitful seeds planted by Beth Judy? Countless parents in the Woodbridge School District are thankful that their children were tended to in her garden. And if there's any doubt about how Beth's garden grew, along with her fellow gardener Steve, look no farther than Jason, Jesse, Jared, and Josh. You all know and can rest assured that your mother planted precious seeds in your children. I know that when your mother left this world, she knew that her grandchildren were left in the garden of her sons and grandfather, where they would receive